What's up, y'all? So as you can tell by the description, I'd like to share my story as to how I told my mom that I was pregnant at the age of 15. Probably like a month or two after my 15th birthday, I lost my virginity to my boyfriend. We were boyfriend and girlfriend from middle school. And like a month after I turned 15, I lost my virginity. And not even like a month or two after that, I missed my period. So I would say I missed my period maybe 2 or 3 months after I lost my virginity. And a lot of people like to think that the girls are always fast. Like seriously though, like he had like older brothers, so I think he knew a lot about sex. So even before I lost my virginity, like a year before I even lost my virginity, he would try to like dry hump me. Like it was the weirdest thing ever. But anyway, I guess I finally gave in, and 2 or 3 months after I turned 15 years old, I missed my period. So I just remember going to him and saying, yo, I missed my period. And he was like so scared. He was just like, oh man, you can't tell your mom. She's gonna make you have an abortion. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I have to tell my mom. Like, I have to tell my mom. And he's just like, okay, well, maybe just wait until like next month and see. And I'm like, okay, maybe we can do that. So I waited till the next month. I still didn't get no period. So I went back to him and I'm like, my menstruation, it still didn't come on. You know what I'm saying? So I'm going to tell my mom. I have to tell my mom. And he's just like, dang, you know, he's losing it at this point. So my first attempt to tell my mom went something like this, right? So I'm pacing back and forth in front of her room. Her room door is closed. Her room door, for the most part, stayed closed. So I'm pacing back and forth in front of her room. And I finally got up enough nerve to knock on the door, right? So I knock on the door, and I knock. She opens the door, and I felt like I was about to have a fucking heart attack, like I promise y'all. So I'm like, oh, our bathroom needs some tissue. I chickened out, like I seriously chickened out. So I was like, our bathroom needs some tissue. And she was like, oh, okay. So she went to get the tissue, and you know, that didn't, I never got around to telling her because I felt like I was seriously gonna have a heart attack. So the second attempt, right? Her room door was open at this point. Okay, so she's like, no, well, hold on, I gotta rethink about this. Okay, this is what happened. So the second attempt, I walk in her room and she's sleeping in her bed. Like her door isn't closed at this time. She's sleeping in her bed. So I wake her up and I'm like, Mom, I missed my period. And she's just like, what do you mean? And I'm like, I missed my period. I didn't get a period. And she was just like, well, are you sexually active? And I was like, yeah. And she was like, well, when I didn't even know you were sexually active. When did this happen? Like, when did you start having sex? And I'm like, maybe 2 or 3 months ago. But she knew of my boyfriend. Like, he would come over. She knew about him, but she just didn't know that we were sexually active. So, you know, after telling her that, she was pretty much like, well, you know, after she cried and we hugged, and, you know, she's just like, you know, that's just more problems. You know, we're not doing too well. We don't have any money, you know. And at that point, my great grandmother had passed away and we were living in her home, and it was just like a 2 or 3 bedroom house. And my mom had like 6 of us plus 2 other children that she was taking care of. So it was very, crowded. And I just remember her like crying, and she, I'm gonna just go get a pregnancy test and I'll just make sure. She got the pregnancy test. It came back positive, and she sat me down and she's just like, look, I've had 6 pregnancies and I had all of my children, so I'm totally against abortions. And what she mentioned to me was, so it's up to you. If you want to keep the baby, you can keep the baby. If you would like to get an abortion, we can get an abortion, but I'm not going to make that decision for you. So I pretty much just told her, yeah, I mean, I want to keep the baby. And we're here, you know. Now she's a senior in high school. Where is she? She's right here. She's a senior in high school, and I have 2 other children. Thank y'all for listening to my story. Now, what I would really like to drive home is that in no way am I condoning teen pregnancy. It's just my story. It's something that happened to me, and I do not regret my decision in keeping my daughter. It was hard, of course. I definitely went a different path than I probably would have went had I not had a child. There was definitely an alternative school that I went to. It was an all-girls school, all-girl pregnancy school, so you can go there pregnant or after you have the baby as well. And how that worked is they would send like a bus to your front door to pick you up, and the buses had car seats on them. They would pick you and your child up. Once you get to the school, on one side of the school was the daycare, and on the other side of the school was the classes. You had bonding for one of your periods each day, where you can go to the nursery and get your baby and bond for that hour. But you first had to go to your class to get your work, and then you can go bond. They had parenting courses. They had like just little offices that you can even sign up for WIC. They had clinic. Like, it was like a blessing in disguise. I did not realize how much of a blessing it actually was while I was going to the school. Like, once I graduated and like me looking in the space that I am in now, I realized just how much of a blessing that school was. You know what I'm saying? I was still able to get my high school diploma, go on to college because of that. I didn't have to find a babysitter. I didn't have to you know, see if my mom will be able to watch my daughter. You know what I'm saying? So for the most part, the school was definitely a blessing in disguise, and I, you know, appreciate it now. I didn't appreciate it then. You know what I'm saying? There's something else that I wanted to say. I was 10th grade, y'all. I was like 10th grade and pregnant. I was in the 10th grade and pregnant. Like, that is so crazy to even think about, because I couldn't even imagine that for none of my kids. That is crazy. 10th grade and pregnant. And it was definitely like crazy. The first, like, while I was pregnant, I didn't go to the alternative school. I actually went after I had my child. But while I was pregnant, I went to regular high school, and nobody knew I was pregnant. Like, seriously, like, I would wear like big coats and shit. And the only people who knew that I was pregnant was PE, because I had to dress out. And the girls in the locker rooms would be like, oh my God. They would be rubbing on my belly and stuff. And it was just so weird. But once I had my daughter, and like, I was out of school for 2 weeks before I actually went back to take my finals. And when I came back, the teachers were like, you were pregnant? What? Like, because nobody knew I was pregnant, but that's crazy. But anyway, thank y'all for listening to my story. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed already. And until next time, peace.